Hey guys, Paul here from rockclimbingcentral.com, and today we're going to talk about how often you should climb as a beginner. Now, there are many different things we're going to talk about in this video. For instance, should you climb every day as a beginner? When should you consider increasing the amount that you climb per week? How to actually climb on the days that you train, and different kinds of recovery methods for fatigued muscles and joints. Just before we start this video, I just want to mention that I've got an article about this whole topic that's a lot more detailed than what I'm going to be doing in this video. This is just going to be a short video, but if you want to find that article, you can go to rockclimbingcentral.com/beginners help, all one word. So let's get into it. First off, the recommended days that you are supposed to climb as a beginner is a maximum of 3 days per week, all spaced out. So what I mean by that is you don't want to be climbing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You want to be climbing, let's say, Monday, Thursday, and Sunday. And the reason for that is that you don't want muscle confusion. You don't want to be very sore for those 3 days, and then for the 4 days you've got a layoff. You're also going to be increasing your chance of injury if you do that, which you don't want. And as a beginner, you're probably not going to be wanting to climb 3 days anyway. Now, the reason for this is because not only are you going to be really sore, you are also going to have a large chance of having getting an injury. I used to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu before I was into climbing, and I had to stop because of an injury in my neck. But I went into climbing from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu uses uses your forearms and your fingers. And I thought, I'm going to be all right at climbing because I'm already using my forearms and fingers in Jiu-Jitsu. And it turns out that in climbing, you use your forearms and fingers a lot more than in pretty much any sport that I can think of. You are really, really fatiguing those, your forearms and fingers. In Jiu-Jitsu, I thought you used them a lot. It's nothing compared to climbing. It's really nothing. So even though I was climbing like 4 or 5 days a week to try and improve quickly, it wasn't good enough, mainly because I was causing myself injuries and I was getting really sore. Just don't do it. There's no point. I found that climbing 3 days a week, all spaced out, and I've actually also talked to other advanced climbers who say the exact same thing. 3 days a week, all spaced out as a beginner is the maximum you should be doing. Now, how do you know when to increase the amount of days that you should be climbing per week? Well, there's 3 different things that you should be looking for. When you realize that you aren't improving as quickly, you should probably think about increasing the amount of days per week that you climb. When you aren't feeling as sore after climbing, you should probably think about increasing the amount of days that you climb per week. And the third one is probably the most important one. When you aren't getting as many injuries, you should probably think about increasing the amount of days per week. Now, those 3 together, you should really think about. If one of these is bad, for instance, if you are getting injuries, a lot of injuries, then you should think about reducing the amount of days that you climb per week. If you are getting very sore and this is affecting your life in a very negative way constantly, then you should think about reducing the amount of days per week that you climb. And you are going to get very sore a lot at first because you're not used to this. You're using completely different muscles in climbing that you would in pretty much any other sport. Or it's not just that you're using these muscles, it's that you're using them in a different way. So this makes me come into a different point, is how should you be climbing on the days that you do train? Well, you should be using proper technique. That's definitely the biggest thing. If you're using proper technique, you are going to have less injuries. You will probably still be just as sore as you will be, but you'll get less injuries than if you were just to use strength. Do not overuse strength. You will get injured, and also you're not going to improve. You're just using strength. So yeah, you're limiting the possibility of injuries. It's it's also easy to burn yourself out as a beginner. So try to leave at least a minute in between climbs, whether you've fallen off or you've successfully, sent a climb. Try to leave at least a minute, and that's a minute is a very short space of time. I usually leave about 2 or 3 minutes, maybe even 4 minutes. Maybe that's a bit too much per climb, but So, what recovery methods have we got for fatigued joints and muscles? Well, we have got the RICE method, which you probably already have heard of if you've done sport or anything like that before. So the RICE method is rest, ice, compression, and elevation. So rest, obviously, rest your muscles, rest your joints for a few days, for a few weeks, however long it takes. Ice, again, we know what that means. Put ice on the joint or muscle. Compression. So compression is usually like you're wrapping a towel or something like that around the muscle or the joint. You can usually have the ice inside the towel. You don't really want the ice touching the skin. So if you can wrap that inside a towel and then compress that part of the muscle, that's great. And then elevation, just raise it above the heart. A lot of athletes actually swear about bathing in a bath of ice because they think it reduces the inflammation and the soreness. Deep tissue massages as well, also known as sports massages, they are fantastic. I get them whenever I'm feeling quite sore. I like to get them once every 2 months at least anyway, just because they just, not only because they feel amazing afterwards, but also you just like, I don't know how to put it, you just feel really flexible after them. I feel like you're not feeling as tight. It's also really good for your mental state. I really do like sports massages. I think that everybody should get them, even if you aren't doing sport. I really think that office workers, people that are hunched, should really be getting them at the top of their back. Foam rolling as well. If you can't afford deep tissue massages, I think over here they're about £45 or £40, depending on who you go to. Usually in the US, that's about $60, $65, something like that. But yeah, foam rolling. Just you can do that at home. It's quite simple. You buy a foam roller, and you can just use it on your back while you're in your living room watching television, something like that. If you have a hot water bottle or something of that sort, you can also apply heat to an injured area, which will increase the blood flow to that area. However, it's advised that you don't do this until after 48 hours after an injury, because the heat draws more blood to that area, and your tissue's actually bleeding. So you don't want to do that until 48 hours afterwards. Anyway, guys, I hope this has really helped you. Don't forget to go to rockclimbingcentral.com/beginnershelp for a article surrounding this. It's a lot more detailed than this. This is just a really short video just to give you an insight. Please like the video, share it, comment on it if you've got any questions for me, and I will see you in my next video. Thank you very much.